In this demonstration, we are going to learn how we can integrate DXNetOps Spectrum with DXOI 20.2. So to get Spectrum Data Publisher, you can go to Spectrum one-click web portal and click on administration link. And then after that, you have to go to analytics configuration. And from this, by clicking on this link, you can download your Spectrum Data Publisher connector. I have already downloaded it so that we can quickly start our installation. So this is the Spectrum Data Publisher which is already downloaded. To install this, you have to just double click on it and the installation will start. This will be really quick and short installation. All it asks you to specify is the installation directory. You click on next. Here it is asking you to specify the installation directory. Until unless you wish to install Spectrum Data Publisher on a non-default directory, you can choose the default one, which is in the case is Win32 app. So click install. Now the installation has started and it has completed successfully. So click on done. Now the Spectrum Data Publisher has been installed on the installation directory. The installation directory which we had chosen was C:(Win32 app. So we go here and we see a folder got created here. Now, since the installation is completed, the thing which is required now is to configure it so that the communication between Spectrum and OI can start. So to do that, we have to make change in configuration file, which is available in config folder, connector config. Now we have to edit this connector.config XML file and provide the values which are with respect to our environment. So we open that config file in a notepad++. So here there are three sections of our interest. The first is Spectrum configuration, which talks about your Spectrum environment. So here in this section, you have to specify your Spectrum one-click server URL, your Spectrum web app URL, and things like that. The second section is related to your destination. This destination can be anything, but in our case is this destination represents our OI endpoint. So here you have to specify your tenant ID, your destination URL, and then you can choose what data you want from Spectrum to OI. So for example, if you want to have alarms and CM, and then there is this subsection here which talks about alarm reconciliation. So every time when Spectrum Data Publisher service restarts, if you want to have a cleanup of stale Spectrum alarms, you can enable this section, and you have to specify URL bearer token, and then every time when the service starts, it will make sure that stale Spectrum alarms get cleared from OI. So this is about your destination section. The last section is about task configuration. So task is a component which takes care of your inventory relation and topology related information. So in this section, we have to specify our task URL, meaning our APM service gateway task URL. But before that, we have to keep this thing. We have to enable this configuration, and then we have to specify task URL, and then we will be good to go. So to keep it quick, I have already copied all the required information. So what I'll do is I'll quickly paste those information, and we can configure it. So this is the Spectrum one-click URL, which represent my Spectrum environment. So I'll paste it like this. This web app launch URL in most of the cases used to your one-click URL / web app. Now here we have to specify the tenant ID. So this tenant ID you can get from TXI tenant index. We specify that value here. Destination URL. So this destination URL represent your NGINX route. This value you can get from your OpenShift environment. So I have already copied my NGINX route. So I'll simply copy it here. Remember that this is a URL. So it has to have HTTP protocol and everything. So if you want to have a proxy also to be configured, in that case, you have to specify proxy related information. In my case, I don't want to do that. So I'll keep it as it is. Now this is alarm reconciliation configuration. So let's make it true. If we wish to have the stale alarm reconciliation in place. So I'm making it true. And here we have to specify our DUI admin UI URL. So that URL is available here. Error token. Now we are done with our destination. Now we'll configure TAS. So let's enable it. Here we have to specify the TAS URL and we are done. So let's save this file. Now the configuration is done. Now we have to start this Spectrum Data Publisher service. To do that, we have to run this batch file run.bat start. When we first time start Spectrum Data Publisher service, it will ask few information. So here it will ask the password. So this password is your Spectrum Data Publisher password. You can specify any password which you wish to have. I'm specifying a password here. Confirm it again. Now here it is asking your Spectrum one-click username. So you have to specify what username you are using for logging into one-click and its password. Now here it is asking about TAS bearer token. So this token is your APM agent token corresponding to the tenant which you want Spectrum to be integrated. So I have already taken that agent token with me and I'll paste it here. Press enter. Now here it is asking about username for proxy. We don't want that. So we'll press enter. In the password, we don't want that as well. So we'll press enter. Now it will validate all the values which we have specified and it will start the service. As you can see, it has validated Spectrum, TAS, Jarvis and OI and all the validation have completed successfully and service has started. So with that, Spectrum Data Publisher installation configuration is done. Now if you want to validate whether your installation and configuration has completed successfully or if you are facing some problem, say for example you are not able to see the Spectrum data alarms going to OI. So for that, you can check Spectrum Data Publisher log. So to check that, you can go to logs folder and then you can check Spectrum Data Publisher log. So let's open and check. So here we are seeing that the service has started already. It has identified how many devices it found in Spectrum. It's syncing the TAS and it is also checking the number of alarms it found. So for any issue which you find um, in the integration of Spectrum and OI, the first point of debug would be your log file. So you have to come here and check for any exceptions or error. And if you find any, then you have to take corresponding action to resolve the issue. You can also refer to Spectrum documentation to see detailed steps on how we can install, download, configure, and debug the Spectrum Data Publisher integration with OI.